And that was my dog's cue to get a toy and start playing. Obviously, as soon as she hears me say those words. So, and she got a squeaky one. I'm excited that we're here today. We are going to be, I'm just going to refresh the computer, talking about confidence and your leadership. And so, and it's one of those topics that I think we get, we talk about, we have conversations about, we learn strategies, I don't know. And I think it's just something that we can keep talking about, that we can keep brainstorming, because one of the keys is we always have to be reflecting, right? In order to improve, in order to become better, to increase our skills, no matter which skill we're working on, we need to always be taking that time to kind of reflect, right? So we have a lot of new people today that either will be joining us or maybe joining us or watching the replay. So I just want to say welcome to all of you. This morning is our weekly live training that happens inside the group. And I'm trying something new today, and I'm not quite sure if it's going to work or not, so we'll see. I'm using the business phone to record this as well as being on live. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of workload that I have, because I normally, when we're done, I retape it on video, so I have like my own copy of the training, and it doesn't just belong to Facebook. And so then that way I can use it elsewhere if I want. So if you kind of see me looking down, it's because they're a little bit offset, and I don't know. So we're just going to roll with it. I'm going to try anyways. So between the computer where I'm watching for your comments and the interaction piece, in case they don't show up on my phone, you're going to see me kind of look in a couple of different places. So again, my name is Karen, and I'm excited to be here and to provide this valuable training to all of you, because I think there isn't enough of that. I think there's normally a place where you can go and learn and you can interact, but not in a space where you feel comfortable or you're able to just kind of sit back and watch. And if you want to chime in, you can chime in. And if you don't want to chime in, you don't have to chime in. So I look forward to these every week. And I'll be honest, and this absolutely ties into that leadership and that confidence piece. When I first started doing these live trainings back in, I think it was June, end of June, I was horrible. I'm going to be honest. I was horrible. I was not confident. I was nervous. I was like out of my element, because I'm normally not the one that's in front of the camera. I'm always the one behind the camera, especially with my family and friends taking photos or whatever. And then I also realized the first training I did, I was sitting down, and I'm much more confident when I'm standing. I'm able to kind of move. I feel like I can move my body a little bit, and that nervous energy, I'm able to kind of walk it out. So what you'll notice if you've gone back and watched any of the previous trainings under the guides, I'm always standing. And that's because that's where I'm most comfortable, which aka you become more confident, right? So I'm able to kind of feel like I'm grounded, versus where I'm sitting, I feel like I'm constantly like shifting myself, where when I'm saying I'm not. So once you understand that, you can start to kind of step into more of a confident decision, right? Once you know what you're comfortable about. But today's topic, and I just kind of shared that story because one, I'm standing, two, we're talking about confidence, and I'm kind of giving people time to get into the live stream. So if you're here, this is an interactive. So if you have comments or thoughts or ideas or questions, post them in the comments. And between the computer, oh, hi Maria. See, it did not show up on my phone. That you, right, that just put them down and I'll watch them. So between the three, then I will figure out where everybody is, and we're just going to roll with it. And again, I think that's part of the confidence piece, is kind of embracing your own vulnerability and knowing and just kind of being transparent, right? When you kind of shed light on where you're nervous or where you're uncertain, it kind of dissipates the concern or the fear, right? So when you're talking about leadership and you're talking about your confidence and you're thinking about those things, where does it come into play for you? Like, when do you feel the most confident as a leader, as a woman, as an individual? Like, where are you the most confident? And within your business, it's the same question. When are you the most confident? When you are working on your business or sharing your business, your idea, and your expertise. And our confidence, right? When we know that, our confidence then allows us to take these risks, right? We can kind of step out and be bold and take these risks that we never otherwise would have because we have confidence. Or if we're not confident, are we playing it safe? And then that kind of allows you to kind of keep rolling in that safe zone where you never have to push yourself out of it, right? Because confidence allows you to step out of your comfort zone and kind of push those boundaries for yourself, right? So the three things we want to talk about today as we roll into them are, right, embracing your expertise, knowing where you're the expert and kind of knowing what your limit is and when you want to, either refer your customer or client out or, delegate to somebody else. You want to look at cultivating a really supportive network, and we'll talk about why that's important. And then we're going to talk about the practice of self-acceptance and being compassionate with yourself. And we talk about this, right? Like, we are our own worst enemy because mentally we start to talk ourselves down. We start to have, and some of you have been here and watched the other live trainings will know, right? Negative Nelly, that's who is my self-doubter, right? So she comes in and, starts to kind of natter, and I have to quiet her down. So, Maria, I just saw your question, so I'll answer it in a second. So we're going to talk about those three elements. So Maria's asking, how do you gain confidence if you've never learned how and you never had it? Great question. And that's part of what I really wanted to focus on today, because I think for a lot of us, and I'm including myself in this, right? We all go through this growth and contraction period. And when we contract, it's because our confidence is being challenged. And if we are stuck in this contraction period, it's because we really need to focus on what does that confidence look like. And confidence comes from experience. It comes from practicing what you know over and over again until you can do it with your eyes closed. And so I'll use my son as an example because I think this is pretty clear. So he plays hockey. And one of the things that his coach earlier this year mentioned is he's got to work on his confidence on the ice, right? So his confidence on the ice impacts his decision-making on where he's going to play, how he's going to position himself, how he's going to respond, how he reads the ice, right? So it's going to affect his hockey intelligence, as they say. So the coach is telling us this. And so we're saying, okay, well, he can only do so much in practice, right? He's going to learn the skills in practice. He's going to learn all of those things within the practice time period. But the way he gets the confidence is he implements them in the game time. So he has to be able to translate what he learns into game. And in the game is when he builds his confidence. So how we liken that, to answer your question, Maria, is you practice in situations like this. You practice in situations like the skills workshops that we started last week. You practice by putting yourself out there, just outside of your comfort zone, that you feel is a pretty safe environment, right? We talked about bold risk versus playing it safe. In a pretty safe environment, and then you kind of jump in and put yourself in a position where you're going to implement what you've been practicing. So that's kind of what we want to talk about, because the first step, right, the first strategy you really need to do to be building that confidence as a business owner, as a leader, is by knowing where you're an expert at, right? So Maria, what are your expertises? What is your academic? What is your industry accomplishments? So taking a look at and kind of line iteming them out, like, what are you an expert at? What do you know inside and out that you can be put in any situation and kind of blow people away? Because you just know things because you know them and you have the experience as well as the education to back it up. So, and it doesn't always have to be both, right? A lot of people put a lot of weight on the academic piece, but real life experience can sometimes far outweigh what you learn in college and university. And I have my own thoughts on that, which we can talk about later. But so, Maria, your first step is, what are your unique skills? And this goes for all of you that are here today, right? Make a list of everything that you know you're an expertise at. And don't just stop in business, right? Like, I can cook. I'm not the greatest cook. Like, I wouldn't put that down if I was making a list that I'm a really great cook. Like, that would not go on my expertise skill side. But maybe you are. So add it, right? Like, it doesn't have to be just about your business. When you're looking at your expertise, you want to list everything that you know. Everything that you know that people would be saying, oh, that's who I'm going to go to. I'm going to ask Maria. I'm going to ask Kayla. I'm going to ask Leah. I'm going to ask Robin. Hey, that's how I'm saying hi to you guys. Welcome, right? So take a look at what you know and what your expertise is. And then start to filter through and say, okay, so for me, like, I'm a really strong business person. And I know that because, one, I have my degree. Two, I have been doing business since the time I was 5, literally, with my parents owning a business and having to be involved in the business, running my own business as a young teen and teenager that put myself and my sister through college and university, right? So I have an enormous amount of business experience. So knowing that, I can draw on that. I have a history. So, but I also have a degree in it on top of different certifications. So what do you have, and where is there an alignment where you have hands-on experience and then you have training or certifications or academics that can back that up? And it can be accomplishments. So it could be where you were recognized within your community as somebody who did something within your industry, right? Just because you don't have the degree or the certifications, but you've made an impact because you were passionate about it and you kind of dove into it. So understanding where you're an expert really begins to build that foundation for your confidence to be built upon, right? Because we look at that, is the foundation shaky? Is it solid? And when you make a list, that gives you that solid foundation. You don't question it. There's no what ifs, right? What it also does is it allows you to identify the gaps. So if you really want to, become an expert in a certain field, in a certain position, now you have this list of where you know you have expertise, where you know you have the training. And then you take a look at what you need to do this and you say, where are my gaps? And then you start finding how to fill those gaps. And guess what happens? Now you're taking an online course, an in-person course at the local community college, at the community center. It doesn't matter. If you are taking courses, improving your own skill set, guess what that does? That's the next brick on that foundation. Because now you can stand on your foundation of what you know, and you can stand on another piece of foundation to say, I'm learning what I need to know. And there is something to be said when you continue your education. I completely believe that, learning is a lifelong pursuit. We don't stop when we graduate high school. We don't stop when we graduate college or university or post-secondary education. We are always learning. And that feeds into, I truly believe that we are a teacher and a student simultaneously. We are always learning something and we are always teaching something. So when you start to look at, oh, I don't know what that was. My house just shook. Sorry. I think they're taking trees down because I hear chainsaws. So hopefully, I know now my dog's getting all crazy. So yeah, okay, I think it was just a tree they were taking down. Okay, back, and welcome to those that are new. This is kind of what you get. You get the distractions at the same time. So, but we always get back on track, I promise. So yes, so the lifelong learners, right? So we are a teacher and a student. And it's easy to say, oh, this is like, I can easily identify this is when I'm learning. Or if I'm stepping into my role as a leader, this is when I'm teaching, right? Those are pretty defined. But my own personal perspective, and you can take it as you want, is that's not always when we're learning and that's not always when we're teaching. So even though I'm standing here and I'm kind of conducting this opportunity for you to be the student to learn, and I am in a teaching mode, I am still learning. Even though I may be sharing with you right now, I am learning, right? Like I'm learning as I'm reading comments. I'm learning as the outside sources are kind of coming in and from a distraction. So I'm learning how to keep my focus. Right? So we are always learning, we are always teaching. And so knowing that you are simultaneously holding these two roles, we're teaching while we're learning while we're teaching, that you can start to say, I have more expertise than I may realize. I have more experience than I may realize. So when you're doing the self-reflection, you're putting that list together of your accomplishments or your experience or what you're known for, what you're the go-to person for. You can start to say, well, at what point was I teaching somebody something I didn't even realize? So if you're a parent, and when I say parent, I don't just necessarily mean like human kids. It's also four-legged friends, right? Like, so what does this look like? We're always learning. We're always teaching. So understanding what your unique skills are helps you identify what other bricks in your foundation you can start to lay, okay? So, and also understand what the gaps are. So as we're talking about this, who has questions about kind of your experience, your expertise, your training, your certifications? Do you guys have any thoughts, any comments? You can shoot down my idea of the student teacher concept if you want. I don't care, right? Like it's all good. So this is an open conversation, right? Two-way street. So anything? All right. So that was strategy one, right? Really embracing your expertise and understanding what you're really good at and what you can share with the world, as well as what you want to learn. Maria, do you have an idea of the steps you're going to take regarding kind of this strategy one to help you build that confidence? I'm going to wait for her to be able to respond. And if anybody else, feel free to comment your thoughts and where you're at and if you want any support. And we'll also circle back at the end for questions and answers as well. So, so it's all good. Okay, so when we embrace our expertise, what ends up happening, right? We get opportunities to showcase who we are. We can better self-advocate for ourselves. And in the end, that rolls into, we get to inspire people, right? That's our goal. And when we talk about what we do on social media, you're either educating and inspiring people, this is a great place to start, right? Because if you want to know how to inspire people, you want to know what you can share and what you understand in your expertise, right? Okay, great. Yes, so Nicole just said accountability partners are fantastic for building you up too, as well as coaches. So what's interesting, that's strategy number two, right? You really want to cultivate this supportive network. So good on you, Nicole. Thanks for like totally leading us right into that. I love it. Right, so because confidence doesn't get built in a vacuum. And that's when I use my son as an example, right? The vacuum is practice time. He can't become a confident hockey player if he isn't going to play in a game and actually put it into practice. We as a leader aren't going to be able to build our confidence if we don't practice within that safe environment. Sorry, and of course my nose is going to start running now. So your support network looks like what? Right? Who's your network? Who are your go-to peeps? Right? So part of the reason I built the Women's Business Resource Community and created the Facebook group that we're in right now is exactly that, right? I want to create this amazing supportive network that you can meet each other, you can talk with each other, you can throw ideas out, you can share, get feedback, and kind of build that confidence muscle up, right? So that way when you go out into the world and you present it to the public and to potential clients or customers, you're a lot stronger, right? Your confidence is already there. So the other reason that you'd want a supportive network is what? What are the other reasons? See, hockey mug, my favorite mug. So surrounding yourself with others who are trying to grow is invaluable. Yes. So when we're all growing, we may not be growing at the same pace, and we may not all be growing in the same direction, right? Like we all have our own unique paths, but there's what they call safety in numbers, right? You hear it all the time. It's the same here. Your confidence, you can grow your confidence within the numbers because now you have the cheerleaders to help kind of guide you and cheer you on as you move through. So what's the other valuable piece about a support network? Like we don't necessarily just need cheerleaders, right? What else do we need when it comes to, yes, right? Nicole's saying keeping a positive attitude, mindset, absolutely. Maria's saying support is the foundation of our growth, absolutely, right? So, but what are the other reasons we want a supportive network? Like a network that allows you to cultivate relationships, building trust. What do you think the other reason is that we want that supportive network when it pertains to your confidence? Guidance and mentoring, yep. So one of the key measures within a supportive network that you feel comfortable, that you feel that you can be honest and vulnerable to and within is not everybody in that network is going to be the yes men. Collaboration, right, Maria? Right? We're not all going to give you that pat on the back and say, oh, great job, keep going, when really you might need to hear, hey, so great idea, I love where you're starting. Here's some feedback that might help you refine it, make it better, improve upon it, or, you know, as a potential customer, this is how I received it. Maybe, is that how you wanted it to, right? So we don't always need to be yes men to be a supportive network person or a supportive mentor or a supportive coach, right? So I had a meeting with a client back in November, and he asked me for my input, and I had told him when we first started working together, like, I am not your yes person all the time. Like, I'm going to coach you, we'll collaborate, we'll do all those things that a coach does to get you achieving your goals in the right direction. But I'm going to tell you honestly when you need to be told that maybe something isn't going to work. He was not happy when I actually followed through on that. So, right? So Maria's saying negative feedback is always a great way to improve yourself. Yes. So I think, Maria, what we want to be looking at is not always necessarily the negative feedback, right? So, because negative feedback can kind of put you at a stop, right? It can kind of shut your confidence growth. So it's constructive feedback. And I know that's a nuance, but, and for anybody else, like jump in here when you're talking about what does it feel like to get negative response. So using that situation back in November with that client, it wasn't that I told him, no, you can't do that. You'll never achieve that goal, right? Like that is a negative feedback approach. It was more, I went to a query with him, right? Explain to me how you believe that goal is a realistic goal. Like, what is your data? What is your belief? Where are you finding this information to support that goal? I wanted him to convince me that internally what I was thinking was wrong. Like, I honestly wanted him to prove me wrong, right? And so in the end, through that discovery and through that query, he was able to realize, actually, that's right, I can't do that goal. He was setting himself up for failure, right? So that is the word I was looking for, not negative. I was looking for constructive feedback, yes. And so, right, but this is where we learn. I mean, language is amazing, right? There's how many words, and we only use, what, 10% of the English language when we're talking. So so absolutely, when you are thinking about that support network, you do not want to necessarily fill that support network, that group, with yes people, right? Yes men. So in the corporate world, we were always like, that's a yes man. We don't want him on our board because we need people who are going to give us the feedback that isn't necessarily always the most loving, right? So what other elements to your support network do you feel is important? So you want them to be taking a mentor role. You want them to be taking a coaching role. You want them to inspire you. You want them to give you constructive feedback. What else? What other elements of a support network do you feel need to be included? Because we also want to remember, right? This networking, this supportive group is a two-way street, right? It's not always where they're going to come to you with the information. It's also you're going to go back to them, right? So because with the support network, it's not just you with these people, it's you among these people where you're communicating back and forth. So you're giving feedback to each other, right? Okay, so that is strategy number 2, right? So number 1 is really embracing that expertise. Number 2 is cultivating a supportive network. 3, and I think this one is the hardest one, and it's the practicing of self-acceptance and being compassionate with ourselves. And you'll hear me say it in other trainings. We have to show ourselves grace. We have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be kind. We have to, exactly, Maria, right? Give and take. So we have to be compassionate. And we are able to show compassion and grace to everybody else in the world before we can show it to ourselves. And as a leader, this is something we have to work on, and you have to do it constantly. This is not something, again, we talked about cultivating that network. It's not in a vacuum. It's the same thing, right? Part of that support network is encouraging you to take time for yourself, to be compassionate, to remind you that we are only human, right? So what does that look like, right? Practicing the self-acceptance. We talk about mindset, right? So mindset is a big thing. We've talked mindset in other trainings. So feel free to go back to the guides and take a look for those. But, right now, when you're thinking mindset, what does it mean for you? What does having a positive mindset, what does being compassionate toward yourself look and feel like? So if you were going to sit today and say, okay, I need to be compassionate with myself, what does that look like? I'm having a rough day, or just I got some feedback, or I didn't get the contract that I thought I was going to get, right? So something unsupportive to you going after your goals has occurred. How are you going to be compassionate with yourself? What does that look and sound and feel like for you? So I just got a notification. I'm going to swipe it away. So grace is something I have to learn how to give myself. It's something that I take it seriously. Yes. So, and it's right. So how do we do that? Like what we have to remember is self-doubt. And when I say negative Nelly, like she gets loud some days, right? So what I end up having to do is say, okay, negative Nelly, you've got 60 seconds to say all the things you want to say. And I actually give her the opportunity to speak. Because just like a child, right, when you tell them that, no, you can't do something, no, you can't do something, guess what they're going to want to do? They're going to want to go do it. So the more you just say, you know, stop, 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 it's going to be the same thing. It's like a training process. So at some point, you have to let them share. You have to let that negative voice out. Now, creating parameters around how that is expressed is really important. Allowing yourself like a time limit to say, okay, I'm just going to say everything I want to say that is that tape recorder, because then I can erase the tape recorder, right? And this is how you start to give yourself grace, because then you can say everything you want to say, right? And I do it when nobody else is around, right? Like it's normally, you know, like the kids are off to school and, you know, something is bothering me. And so I just walk around the house for like 60 seconds and I just spew it all out. And then I stop and I take a breath and I say, okay, it's done. I've acknowledged it. It has no influence or power over me for the rest of the day. It's just done. So what happens? You're going, okay, so that's great, Karen. So you're in your house by yourself, but I'm in an office or I'm in a public place. I can't be like walking around like a crazy lady, you know, spewing all this stuff. And you'd be right. So journaling, having a book or a binder or a place where you can write out how you're feeling. But you want to express it. You want to acknowledge that these feelings are real, right? Because self-doubt is the number one killer of your confidence. So if you are feeling doubtful at all, you want to address it. And addressing it doesn't mean you shove it away, right? Addressing it means you hear it, you see it, you acknowledge it, and then you rewrite it. You flip the script. And when you do that, you're able to then take a breath and go, oh, that feels way better. That resonates better with me. Like I feel that much better now. So that's part of being compassionate with yourself, is you have to hear yourself. And if you just keep quieting that voice, then you'll stop listening. And if you stop listening, you stop learning. And when you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you stop succeeding. So you have to give yourself the time and opportunity to express even the ugliest feelings in a safe environment, of course, right? So that's part of that compassion, that self-acceptance, right? So people will start to use, you know, the attitude of gratitude. You know, we become grateful for opportunities. And I started this, when I opened up the live stream, I started kind of talking about, you know, when I started doing these back in May and how horrible they were and I was not confident. And then I kind of found my groove. And part of it was I just kept saying, I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my knowledge. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak in front of people, that I have the technology, that I have the internet, that I have a phone that I can record it on, that I have the time, right? So I started to find all the small things I can be grateful for that allowed me to become better, to become more confident in doing these. So like, here I am now, like, right, I'm like, oh, I've got my coffee and my son came home 15 minutes ago because they're off to a hockey game, right? So he comes home, grabs his stuff, and I wasn't stressing about it. Where 3 months ago, 5 months ago, I would have been a nervous wreck. So where's my confidence? My confidence is growing. So yes, Maria, right? Therapy is a great way because it's helped you to express yourself. Absolutely. right? And there is, the therapy is just a wonderful tool to have and to make available to yourself, because a therapist is somebody who is at arm's length, right? Emotionally detached from the outcome, as they say. Because when we have an emotional attachment to the outcome of what the person is going through, then we subconsciously have an ulterior motive, because we want to direct them in the path in the way that we want to see them on the other side, where a therapist has no emotional attachment. So therapy is absolutely a great tool. And it's just, I think it's just it's just great. Therapy is awesome. I'm a big advocate for it, for all ages. Doesn't matter what you're going through. Therapy is great. Okay, so reframing the way we speak about ourselves and our circumstances is so important. Absolutely, Maria. And that's part of that self-reflection too, right? Like we talked about that. So when we get to that reframing piece, that's the point where we catch ourselves, we hear negative Nelly speak, and we go, okay, we're going to reframe that. I'm going to take a few seconds, I'm going to reframe it so it becomes something more positive and supportive to where I want to go. And that in turn builds our confidence. It's a habit, right? Building our confidence is a habit. Really is, because it's taking action. And we've heard it before, like it used to be, I think, 30 to 40 days of repetition, where you have to do something 30 to 40 times before it to become a habit. Well, now they're saying, depending upon the cycle of the situation, it could be 65 days and up to like almost a year of constantly reminding, reframing, and refocusing ourselves to get that new habit in place. So when you're talking about building this confidence, that's why I say it's one step at a time. Pick one thing and keep working on it, right? And keep adding to it, because then it's a long-term investment. And just because, like, as me as an example, just because I'm more confident now than I was 6 months ago, that doesn't mean there's not other areas of my life that I'm not confident and that I'm still building my confidence in, right? So that's definitely something. Okay, who has some questions? Who has some thoughts, some ideas? We're talking, even though we're talking about confidence, if it has something else that you just want help on, then put me in the hot seat and let's go. So, anybody? Okay, so while we're waiting, while you guys kind of sit and think about if you're going to ask something or if you're typing, building your confidence as a leader, embracing your expertise for 1, 2, cultivating that supportive network, 3, practicing self-acceptance, compassion. Those are really the 3 strategies, and working on those over time just to build that confidence muscle, right? Become stronger. Who else? And for those that are new to the group, last week we held our first Lunch and Learn, and there is a replay available for that. It's a Zoom interactive skills-based workshop that's free. It just requires an extra step to participate, but the replay link is in the Facebook group under the event. And we did a skills learning on Trello, and it was great. It was really good. Okay. For good. No questions? See, I keep checking my computer because sometimes it comes up there, not my phone. Sometimes it comes up on my phone and not on my computer. So, okay. I love it. So, okay, so circling back. So my son plays for his high school, and they are in an away game today, and they're going by bus downstate someplace. So he's sending me these, and he likes Snapchat. So he's sending me all these snaps. I have no idea what he's saying, but I know he's okay because I would have been getting phone calls otherwise. Yes, so we should do more of the Lunch and Learns. Yes, Maria, they are going to be once a month. The next one will be in March. And the topic is to be determined, but I have an idea. I just need to reach out to the individual who has offered to lead it. And so for those, I bring in a guest leader for that, kind of a guest speaker, instructor, and I just host it. That way you get a broad range of expertise and availability for training. So they will be held the first Thursday of every month. So the next one, I'd have to look at the calendar, will be the first Thursday in March at noon Eastern. Topic to be determined. I should be announcing that before the end of the week, okay? And then registration will open a week before the event. Okay. I think we might be good. If nobody has any other questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, I'm just kind of scrolling through my phone to make sure I didn't miss anything there and I don't see it on my computer. But outside of that, I'm super grateful for all of you being here and allowing my dog to do her squeaky thing at the beginning of the session. So that was, you know, I might have to hide those from now on because that's the second week she's done that. Anywho, okay, so you guys got this. I believe in all of you, and lean into the group. Share what you want to share. Remember, Sundays are your Small Biz Sundays where you can share anything and everything about your business and your specials and what you sell and what you offer. The rest of the week is where you get to ask for help, share valuable information. So yeah. And then I think we're good. Thanks for joining. You guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you all next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Okay, great. Thanks, guys.